Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host Will. I've mentioned in the past that reboots are tricky, but what happens when a reboot is helmed by some quality talent? In this video, we're gonna go over the who and what of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot and why it might be the best film in the franchise. Let's get to it.
Stop.
Wake up, guys! We're getting a Texas Chainsaw Massacre comeback, and this time, one of the best horror studios of Hollywood, A24, are bringing it back. They are officially making a reboot of the franchise, and the most exciting news is that they have chosen Curry Barker as the writer and director of the film. If that name doesn't ring a bell, let me remind you. He is the director who has caught everyone's attention with his latest horror thriller film, Obsession. The film has been a massive hit, with a solid 8.2 IMDb rating and 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's also his first theatrically released film, which makes it even more impressive. So, we can say that the reboot is in real good hands. Well, I can't explain how eager I am to see how Curry Barker reimagines the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So today, I'm here to let you know about every single detail of the reboot. Let's begin, shall we? The chainsaw that changed horror forever. Before we get all hyped up about what Curry Barker and A24 are cooking, you really have to understand why every horror fan treats this franchise as a sacred ground. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was released on October 11th, 1974. Back then, Tobe Hooper was just 31 years old. Before the film was released, his life was quite different. He dropped out of film school to pursue his career in filmmaking independently, but he also worked as a documentary photographer and was even a college professor. Then, one day, he decided to make a horror film with a faint hope of getting Hollywood's attention. He wanted Hollywood's attention, and he got it. He shot the film with a borrowed 16mm camera during the unbearable heat of Texas summer. He made this film so raw and realistic that audiences were convinced it was based on a true story. He literally turned a $140,000 budget film into a film that grossed more than $30 million at the box office. The film became the gold standard of horror that continues to hold up to this day. In the film, he showed a group of teenage friends becoming victims to a family of murderous cannibals. It might sound like a simple cannibalistic plot, but it was his execution that made all the difference. You can call it perfection, actually. That is why it has been difficult to match its level all these years. How did A24 land the rights, and why did they choose Curry Barker? There's a whole story behind how A24 got their hands on the rights. In 2025, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre rights were up for auction, and the bidders went completely insane. Hollywood's big-time bidders including Taylor Sheridan, Oz Perkins, Brian Bertino, Jordan Peele, and yes, even Netflix were fighting over it. Once A24 locked in the rights, they didn't waste a second to hard launch not one, but two freaking adaptations. One into a movie and another into a series. And right now, A24 films are the actual standard of the horror genre, with back-to-back hits like Hereditary, The Witch, Pearl, Talk to Me, and X. There's no doubt they're setting the stage for another phenomenal horror experience. But this seriously feels like a pressure test where everyone has their eyes on A24 Studios to see how they revive the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because just think about the bar here. Even in 2026, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film that was released over 5 decades ago is still the best in the entire franchise. There have been 9 other films made by the franchise, which were either a prequel or a sequel or a remake. They were good, but none of them could top the OG film. So, now that A24 Studios is in charge of this legacy, it's worth the wait to see whether they do justice to it. And most importantly, if they truly understood what made the original film so epic and unforgettably unsettling. For the TV series, they have allotted the writing and direction duties to J.T. Mullner. But for the movie, which is our topic of interest for today, the writing and direction are handed to a young and rising director of the industry, Curry Barker. Now, we've already started with a discussion about how good his latest film, Obsession, is. But working with A24 on a project like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is huge, guys. So, if they're entrusting him with such a big project, it means he's more talented than you realize. So, Obsession is technically the first film he wrote and directed that was released in theaters and became a sensation. But this wasn't the first film he worked on. From a very young age, he began his filmmaking journey by making short films. Then he and his friend Cooper Tomlinson created their sketch comedy YouTube channel called That's a Bad Idea. He never chased the algorithm. Instead, he focused on the cinematic quality and the pacing, which kinda took him to where he is today. After this, his first breakthrough was the short film he made called The Chair. Then came his first directorial debut film, Milk and Cereal. This film actually caught the industry's attention, but not enough to make an impact. But you all know what came afterwards that completely changed the trajectory of his future. Obsession made a statement that was necessary to show the world the potential he had. A film that he shot in just a span of 20 days under a mere $750K budget, which impressed every viewer and critic. Its journey from being a low-budget film to becoming a box office hit and earning around $148 million globally is so damn remarkable. Not only that, major studios got into a serious bidding war for the film until it got acquired and distributed by Focus Features. After watching his films, one thing is clear. He knows what he's doing, and he can do it damn well. And A24 saw the potential in him that was necessary to make a reboot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, A24 also took the challenge. They did not go for a safe option by choosing an experienced veteran horror director. Instead, they went for a very talented newcomer to see whether his creativity can create a version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that can create history again. What do we know about the story and cast so far? I would love to share these details with you, but unfortunately, as of now, nothing is really confirmed. Not the cast, the timeline, or any location. But the one thing we know for certain is that Curry Barker has been appointed to write and direct the film. And from what Barker has said, the Sawyer family will be central to the story. It won't just be about Leatherface or the teens. Barker told Total Film, "I want to lean into the uncomfortability of the family. I want to lean into the rawness of what's going on there. There's some really messed up stuff happening at the farm." Barker wants to flip the narrative. He wants the family to be the main subject and Leatherface to be portrayed as someone who is so broken by his surroundings that he never gets a chance to save himself. He is even very clear about his intentions with the narrative flow and what he wants to portray. He said this in an interview with Games Radar. "I'm really excited to do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's not just about a guy chasing some people around with a chainsaw, that has some heart to it. You care about these characters, and you want to see them survive, and you know it's brutal." It feels like he wants to add emotional stakes to the grueling horror of the film, and that already sounds like a perfect blend to me. I hope the film comes out as good as it sounds. What the movie absolutely has to get right, and why this reboot could work. There are a few things that they have to keep in mind to make sure this film works. The audiences have seen a fair share of chainsaw movies, and they know exactly what they want. Firstly, the dread must be present from scene one itself. The original film never waited for things to go wrong. The moment the characters drive into the haunted part of Texas, things go downhill. I hope the new film will also keep us on the edge of our seats from the start. And most importantly, the original film created an atmosphere where you could engage in an immersive experience. It would make you feel like you're also trapped in the film with the characters. And trust me, if they can bring that same feeling back, this film will definitely be different from the others. Then I'm also waiting to see how they actually portray Leatherface, because he can't be glorified really, or shown as a badass calculating antagonist. The thing that will scare you the most about Leatherface is his unpredictability. Whenever he feels threatened, he lashes out violently and becomes an unstoppable killing machine. But his background actually matters a lot here, okay? He was raised in an extremely dysfunctional family that emotionally and mentally tortured him so much that he turned into this unpredictable, vicious person. And that makes him even worse than a calculating criminal. Thus, for setting up the stage of Leatherface, they have to make the audience feel how sickening his family dynamic actually is. On the surface, they're supposed to look like a normal, loving family, but in reality, they are disgustingly evil, and the family will make you feel uncomfortable and low-key feel bad for someone like Leatherface. Till date, the original film remains the only entry in the franchise that captured this tension, but none of the other films have managed to do the same. They simply paint the family as villains without creating that morally corrupt dynamic that basically defined the Sawyer household. And lastly, the franchise has a habit of over-explaining things about Leatherface. Seriously, I agree that context is needed, but no need to overdo it. The moment they try to bring his origin story about his childhood trauma and all the family lore, that's when the real horror starts feeling diluted. It's very important to balance the lore here. The original film pulled it off, and I think Barker seems to understand this, because he has already mentioned how he's going to prioritize the feeling and the characters all over the lore. He knows exactly what scares the audience and what makes them feel attached to the characters. And if he can successfully pull it off, then the 10th entry in the franchise might be one of the best since Tobe Hooper's original film in '74. Look, I know we have faced disappointments in the past with the franchise, but this time, it really feels different. Just look at it. We have one of the best studios in hand that takes horror seriously, a very young and hungry filmmaker, and alongside them, we have Kim Henkel as the producer who even co-wrote the original film. That is a deadly combo. I genuinely believe together they can make the 10th film of the franchise a complete game changer. And so, with that, we've reached the end of this video. Let us know what you think about A24 and Curry Barker working on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre project together in the comments down below. Oh, and before you leave, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Till next time.